Right, guys, welcome back to the podcast. So I'm really excited. I'm joined by Jimmy, aka Dog Perfection, someone I've looked up to, followed for years, and I've done some shadowing with, and I'm really, really excited, really happy to have you on the podcast. So thank you so much for coming. For those that don't know who you are, can you introduce yourself? Let us know a bit about where you come from, what you specialize in, and how you got into it.
So my name's Jimmy. I am from Dog Perfection. I'm the head trainer there. I started dog training when I was about 18 years old, and I have said the story a few times on my page, but I got into dog training because I had a dog that I couldn't control. I was never allowed dogs growing up. I got kicked out of my house when I was about 16, 17, and I went living at my dad's, but my dad was always living away. Like, that's what he did. Like, he was away for like 6 months. He'd come back for a few weeks and then go again.
America, was it?
America, Russia, things like that, yeah. And I was just young and dumb, and I went to the shelter. First dog I seen, Belgian Malinois, 4 months old. I brought her home. And from that point, I brought her home. She was fine with me. She was fine with my girlfriend at the time. But then as soon as I took her to see my family, she was just she was going for everyone. And at the time, because she was tiny, everyone thought it was quite funny. As time grew, she grew. And yeah, it wasn't as funny anymore. Yeah. So we went to dog trainer after dog trainer to try and help, but no one could help her. Everyone was telling us to let her off the lead with all these other, it wasn't good. It wasn't good. And I got to the point where my dad come home and she was really bad with my dad. She was going for my dad all the time. I had zero clue what to do. Again, I got more and more dog trainers to come out. And I got to the point where he kicked me out of the house, basically. It was either you get rid of the dog or you need to leave. So then I worked in a glass factory at the time, and I was living on the car park in my car with the dog. And it just got to a point where I just had to rehome her, and it broke my heart. Yeah. It really broke. It broke my heart. And from that point, it was, people came to see her. I was very careful who I wanted her to go to. And I think it was a friend of my auntie's at the time. He wanted a guard dog because he had a garage. He come and looked at her. She bit him. He took her.
I'll take it.
And then, it went from there, really. And then I just remember being sat on the couch one day and feeling sorry for myself. Season 1 come on TV, and I just was obsessed with that man and just started studying him like inside out. And then it just kind of went from there. Then my dream was always I just knew from that point, this is what I want to do, and I need to meet that man. I need to work with that man, and I need to learn as much as I can, and that's what I did. Yeah, and that's kind of where it went.
Yeah, so because you've learned from quite a few big names over the years, haven't you? You've got Jeff Gelman, Sean O'Shea, who've just done the seminar with in Scotland. Got it, I couldn't make it to that. Caesar, obviously. Any other names there?
G. Ferguson. It was a lot of the trainers that I met actually at Caesar's as well. Yeah. That maybe are not as like well known, but so much valuable information from them guys. Met really good friends. I think that was the biggest part of it all, to be honest, because it wasn't just dog training. It was like the community and the self-development side of it, and that's what made me fall in love with it, really. But then when I come back to this country, it was completely different. So it was like it was a bit of a wake-up call coming back to this country, because the trainers aren't, I don't know, they're not as united as they are in America. And maybe it's getting better, but back then,
I think I found that it's so hard to like make friends in this industry. It's not easy. Like, either some people just don't want to know, or there's people you just think I wouldn't want to be friends with them. It's hard to kind of to know who you want to be in contact with. I've met quite a few now. I've been lucky, but it took me, must have been a year before I could actually.
A year is good.
like get in touch with someone and actually get a response and get some actual connection and someone to bounce off. So it was Canine Connor Linehan, who's now A Dog's Way, I think he's changed to. So we were chatting quite a bit, and then sort of I met up with him a couple of times, but it took a long time to actually feel like I was not just this one guy doing this one job in my house or out from my house. It was difficult. So yeah, I can imagine over there, like when you listen to the podcast over there, everyone knows everyone. And for a country that's so much bigger than this one, that shouldn't be the case. But yeah, it is. But I guess as well, a lot there's not as many trainers over here that have been going as long. I think it's a new thing. Like it's a very fashionable thing. I think I got into it just before the boom kind of happened. So I think I'd been going about a year or so, and then it was just kind of everyone's a dog trainer. Like every Facebook group I was on, in like the local ones, it was only ever me. And then all of a sudden there was like 6 or 7 popping up here and there. And I think just before it was popular, obviously you've been around a lot longer than that. You've started your shadow program. The reverse shadow program, I guess. I guess it was. So an old client of mine, Layla, and her dog, who I trained probably like just over a year ago, maybe 2, and I think she caught the bug from that. You've done some work with her. So what did it entail? Because I'm very interested in it. Still thinking about potentially asking about that myself. What does it entail? What do people get from that? What do you?
It's kind of, it'll be different for everyone because it's not just open for dog trainers. It's like dog walkers as well. Or anyone in the dog industry, really, dog groomers as well. But it kind of puts you outside your comfort zone. So like, for example, when you come to me, it's very limited because you're watching me handle the dogs, where when I go to you, the roles reverse. You're outside your comfort zones, and I get to see how you interact with your clients. And for me, that's the main thing. So like, you can have the best dog trainer in the world, but if they can't communicate with that client, if they can't teach the human, it's not going to work. So for me, seeing them and seeing how they handle the dogs changes the game. And it like, don't get me wrong, if the shoe was on the other foot, it would be a little bit nerve-wracking. It is going outside your comfort zones, but that's how we grow.
I can't think of anything else out there that's quite like that. So for those that don't know, it's kind of instead of someone coming watching you come watch them, point out what they need to improve on, what they do well, and sort of teach them after observing them, which is kind of backwards from how most sort of shadowing would work. I feel like when I was starting up, I'd love to have something like that, but I've also hated it. Because you're insecure, aren't you? You've got that imposter syndrome. Still do. Like, we're like four and a bit years in here. You're still always kind of thinking, am I doing this right? Is that real that I've just seen actually correct? Am I full of shit? Or is that, no, they're wrong. I'm right, but you've still got to kind of convince yourself. So I imagine having someone with so much experience watching you must be nerve wracking. But I must admit, Layla said that you put her at ease. You made it very easy. Which
I give my client the option, so I can either step in during the session, or I can just sit back and then we can talk after the session. It's entirely up to them. But
that's good.
I feel like being outside your comfort zones and asking me to step in will be more beneficial, in my opinion. More nerve-wracking.
So having you jump in would be, yeah, you could get humbled real quick there, couldn't you? Because I've seen you with dogs. The handling skills, like, they're unbelievable. Like, when I saw you with Don and Massey, I can't remember the name of the dog now, the 2 like health coaches, weren't they? They were like,
I'm off with the dog's names, but I know what you mean.
And like the different, like when they were handling their dog, and like it was still impressive, but then whenever you took over, they just went, ugh. Which, when you're a client, that doesn't matter so much. But I imagine if you're a dog trainer and someone does that to you, it's going to be really bad. And I feel like that'd be the worry. That'd be one of the things I'd worry about, but be mindful of if I was to have you do it. Is my handling skills are going to be 100 times better than my clients, but potentially not to the level of someone that's been doing it for how long now? 10, 12 years?
Longer,
yeah. So someone that's been doing it that long and has learned from so many good people. But I also think you don't grow if you're not outside that comfort zone, and if you're not pushing yourself. So it's really interesting. So your specialty tends to be like reactivity, problematic behaviors, similar to myself. Was that because of the dog at the start, or was that just something you found you were good at, and that was where you?
No, it was definitely the dog at the start, and then when I got my second dog, Sky, she was incredibly dog aggressive, and to this day still the hardest dog that I've ever worked with. And she humbled me very, very quickly. So she taught me a lot. But I definitely say the more reactive side, the more aggression side. I like it all, to be honest, but that's kind of what people gravitate to me more towards.
Which I suppose you look at, I mean, you say it all the time on Instagram, and you can tell when people post the results, whether the confident in the skills or not, because there's so many trainers, like you can see them spouting stuff on Instagram and you have a quick look and you're like, I can't see a dog on this page. I can't see one dog that looks better now than it did before. So I'm just going to ignore your opinion and move on. When you see someone that's actually able to create a change, you're more likely to listen to them. So I guess that's also why clients gravitate to you so much, because you don't have to scroll far to see kind of a before and after. And when I started seeing you doing that however long ago, I thought, I can make dogs look better than they did before. I'm just going to start doing that. And immediately I noticed messages came in. More people were asking, people that were thinking about booking or that I'd chatted with. I'd post a video and then I'd just get a message saying, yeah, can we book? And I'm like, the video, wasn't it? Yeah. So when it comes to the reactivity and aggression, whatever you're doing seems to be working. What's your kind of ethos behind it? Like if you had to sort of elevate a pitch, how you work, obviously it's different with all the dogs and stuff, but like if you had to generalize it in one way, how would you say you work? What would you say the focus is?
Well, I know a lot of people don't like the term balanced dog training, but for me, like you need balance in everything in life. So why would dog training be any different? And I believe like when I started, even though it was classed as balanced training, I probably was more on the compulsion side rather than the balance. And as times got on, I would say I don't correct as heavily as I used to now. I give dogs way more opportunities to do the right thing. A lot of it is everything comes down to habits, even with humans. So the way we think, the way we act, the way we speak, it all comes down to habits, and it's exactly the same with dogs. So for me now, it's about breaking down these habits, and I just see everything as like every case is like a jigsaw piece, and it's just finding them little pieces to match. And it all stems from habits, but it's not always the dog's habits. It's the human's habits. It's a bit of a mixture. So I do find like the more I delve into the human mind now, the better results I am getting, because I can communicate with the human, the owner, on a much deeper level than I used to be able to. So I believe like the results that we get now from when I started, like I wish I could do all them jobs again.
There's so many dogs I think back on and think, I'd love another crack at that. Like we got there in the end, but man, I went the hard way around it, or there's somewhere we didn't get there and they've either gone to someone else, or I've sort of passed them up the chain to someone different, or they've just give up and rehomed. And I just think, why did I not know what I know now? And obviously you just don't know what you don't know, but
everything happens for a reason.
So when you say, so that you're diving into the human mentality, psychology side of things. So talk to us more about that.
So it's more like habits is everything. So I'm just focusing on like the neurology behind habits. Like I've put a lot of, it's all I do in my spare time, literally.
So like the myelin curve and the sort of habit forming, that kind of thing then. So
it's like to the point where we all learn by association. So every time the dog has an association, it's usually because the human has a very similar association, which you will know anyway yourself. But working out a way that you can communicate with that human why they are doing their own habits and make them aware of their own habits is a very, very challenging thing to do.
I enjoy this. I geek out on this as well. I like this.
And the best way I find to do it is to explain why the dog is doing it, to get them to understand like the habit stacking and the actual neurology behind it, and then be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And then do it with them straight afterwards. And it's like, oh. And when you see it click, it's like, oh.
I've just said it makes sense, so I can't argue with it now because I agreed.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you get to a point where I went on a session the other day. It was probably one of the best sessions I've ever had. So the couple that I was with, I was literally sat back for like half an hour like this, and I was just listening to them talk about the dog's behavior. But the way they were breaking everything down was almost identical to how I was breaking it down in my brain. And they were just having this conversation. I didn't step in once, and I just went, that was amazing. That was absolutely amazing. That's the first time. That's the first time that's ever happened. And yeah, it was just amazing. But that's how all my clients are thinking now. So if my clients have an issue later down in the line, they will know how to deal with it.
Yeah, they've got a framework to go back to. Yeah. Do you find that, so when you're doing the dog psychology, the human psychology thing, there's such a massive crossover? in like similarities. Like there's so much closer than what we potentially used to think however long ago. The amount of times where if I can explain something to someone and sort of, because you try to get people not to anthropomorphize the dog and give it like those human characteristics, but then I spend all day doing that to people. I say, if you were going down, so like if a dog's pulling on the lead and it's getting frustrated, if you were going down a road and it was a 40 road and you had to do 30, how would you be feeling? And you can see them bristle and they're like, I'd be raging. I'm like, that's how your German Shepherd feels when it can't get to the park quick enough, and they go, oh. And as soon as they can kind of empathize and recognize that feeling or that habit in themselves, the dog suddenly gets a lot more empathy from them, a lot more sort of wiggle room, and they can break it down a lot easier in their own brain because they've been in a similar situation to the dog's been in, and they can replicate that feeling in their own mind. So yeah, I find that so interesting. I'm like, purposefully or not, I think it's something I do quite a lot. It's your habits create your dog's habits, because you're the thing that we can change here. I can't change that because I'm only going to be here for an hour or two. I can't change that dog right now. And whatever I do in this hour or two doesn't stick anyway. I can change you and you can change dog. And the more that they stop focusing on what the dog's doing and start focusing on what they're doing, suddenly the results sort of start to change. I had one yesterday. And I've been out on the session with the owner, the woman. Really good. Started some lead pressure stuff, some so she like reactive greyhound whippet kind of breed rescue, and started some pressure and release stuff, started some basic handling and stuff. And she said, yeah, I've definitely noticed a difference, feeling loads better. Her father and her husband were there on the next session, and I just went and did the exact same session again to create that consistency across it. And I enjoyed both sessions exactly the same, even though I'm doing the exact same session with the exact same dog. Enjoyed it just as much because I was picking totally different habits out of him than I was with her.
Yep.
And all of it led to them all holding the lead the same and all walking the same and all focusing on the same timing and stuff. And for most people, you'd think living the same day twice is boring, but I lived the exact same session twice with the same dog, and it was... I just remember halfway through thinking, I shouldn't be enjoying this much.
I think that just shows the importance of it though. So like many dog trainers just want to get the dog and deal with the issue straight away. And granted, I used to do that as well. That's how I was taught. But what I have learned throughout time is patience is key, and breaking everything down into them baby steps. Even though it may seem like it's taking a little bit longer, you actually get to the real results a lot faster in the long run.
Yeah.
Whereas if you just try and get as quick as possible, it's not going to be the same. You might get results, but it's not going to be on the same level.
It's kind of if you wanted to build a 10-foot Lego tower, the quickest way would be one on top of another, on top of another, on top of another. But that thing's going to fall down at 5 foot. I'm going to have to start again. Where if you put 10, exactly, 10, you'll get there. So yeah, I get that. You build that stronger foundation. You get the...
Yeah, that's good analogy. Yeah.
You actually get there in the end, whereas you'll never get there if you're trying to run there, if you're trying to race there. So it's a marathon, not a sprint, I guess. Speaking of marathons, talk to me, you maniac.
So we're doing it's me and one of my clients, Chris Barnes, and we are doing a 55 kilometer run from Manchester Dogs Home to Carla Lane, Dogs in Need. So we're raising for both of them charities.
Right, cool.
So that's, yeah.
All in one go, 55 kilometers.
55 kilometers, yeah, in one go, yeah.
I just saw Matt cringe. 55k and he just squirmed a little bit. So yeah, I'd love to join you, but I'm injured, so I can't. Sorry. Yeah, so on that, so I snapped my Achilles tendon not too long ago, about 3-4 months ago now. A clean snap playing football. It was like a gunshot, it was hanging. And that was when I noticed how much I don't actually touch the dog when I'm working.
Oh,
because I carried on working with this massive space boot on. Nothing changed.
Yeah.
Like, I looked a bit ridiculous when I was demonstrating some stuff, but other than that, I missed about 3 sessions the whole time due to not being able to drive, managed everything else. But that's when it kind of became clear to me, it's so much more about the person. I've always known it, but when it didn't hinder my work, my results, my interactions with clients or anything, it didn't hinder it at all. And actually it made me kind of step back and stop doing as much of it myself. It made me feel good.
Yeah.
Because obviously I didn't lose out on money and time and progress with all my dogs, but also it was kind of it's definitely the owner. I mean, we've always known that, but it's certainly, it just so made it so clear to me. If I'm going to change the dog, I need to change the owner. And I've always known it, but I've just realized I can do it with hardly touching the dog. There's times where having hold of the dog. So like I had one the other day, dog came into the park, dog I had hold of him at the time. And just as he went, I just sort of give him a quick check on the lead. Nothing massive, but just well timed. Mm-hmm. And then for the rest of the session, he was really good. And part of me wishes I hadn't done it, because the owners couldn't then get that practice themselves for the rest of the session, because he was like, "All right, got it, don't do that."
Yeah.
And the rest of the session was kind of wasted. So it made it so clear to me, the less I do, the better job I've done. I'm assuming you kind of feel the same.
Yeah. Everything happens for a reason. So the fact that you went through that made you learn that, because you had no other option to be hands off. So I feel like it's like with a lot of things in life, like I go back to quotes that I thought I knew the meaning of. And then you come back to them later in life and it's like, oh, there's a much deeper meaning to it. And I'm sure I'll do it again in a few years' time. Yeah. But it's the same kind of thing. So you knew it, but now it means more. Yeah. And I believe that every trainer is on some kind of journey. Well, everyone in life, obviously. But everything happens for a reason. You just need to listen.
Yeah. Sometimes you're just not ready to hear it until you're ready to hear it, I guess.
Yeah.
So you're massive on the human psychology of it, but something that I see you do that I see literally no other trainer doing is a lot of the kind of breath work and
spiritual side of
the spiritual side of things. You do it with clients, you do it with dogs. I've seen you do it. I'm sure I've seen like stories and reels where you're doing it with people without the dog to prepare them for that. So talk to me about that, because you must hear it, like every dog trainer's heard it 1,000 times. I know it's me and I'm passing it down the lead. You've kind of gone to the complete extreme of that then, because I can't tell people chill out, but like a lot of it is, make sure you're calm and stuff before you go out, but you've kind of gone really in on that. So talk to me about that.
It kind of links up with the psychology behind it, to be honest. So like, if a dog is reactive, well, if the human's reactive, it's not going to help. So, and what I mean by reactive, if the human's panicking, for example, if there's a dog coming and there's a dog approach and they start panicking, or even if they're just reactive in general life. So a good analogy that I heard the other day was actually, imagine you're in a building. So we're in this building now and the fire alarm goes off. You get up nice and calm. You'd go outside to the assembly points. You'd assess if it was a real fire or not. If it wasn't, you turn the alarm off and then we crack on back with the podcast. We wouldn't keep thinking about it. Whereas if you think of that like a thought in your brain where a thought comes into your mind, you have that option to turn the fire alarm off. But lots of people don't. And they, first of all, if as soon as it comes on, assess the situation. Can I control it? If you can't control it, stop stressing about it. If you can control it, then control it. Stay calm and control it. If you can't, switch the fire alarm off. And most people don't, and they sit there, basically, like with the fire alarm on now, and they'll do that all day. As long, does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it is teaching them how to be aware of their own thoughts, and literally just that. So as soon as the thought comes into your mind, is that true or is it not? That simple sentence can change everything.
Yeah.
And then when you then link that to the breath work and the meditation, it works perfectly, because essentially that's all meditation is. Everyone thinks like meditation, you have to be silent. I don't have.
Is that why you sit like this for like most of the time we've been sat here? Those hands have gone like that. I don't know if you've noticed.
It might just be natural. Yeah.
I noticed before. I thought, oh wait, I'll say something in a bit.
I didn't even notice. Yeah. Maybe. Exactly. Habits. I'm aware of it now, though.
Sorry. I didn't want to say anything, but I had to.
So meditation is very similar. You sit down. Everyone thinks you just need to turn your brain off. That's not true. Like, thoughts are going to come into your mind. That's normal. And everyone thinks just because they can't stop these thoughts, that they can't meditate. It's not that. It's just you need, as soon as you become aware of these thoughts, like, oh, I shouldn't be thinking about this. Boom, that's a win. And the more you keep doing that, the better it is. And the way you need to see it, it's like that little voice in your head. If you almost imagine a dog in place, you're doing the same thing. The dog gets out. Nope, place. You put him back in. Nope, don't think of that. You put it back in. It's the same thing. We expect our dogs to be in place and be in this tranquil state, but we can't even do it to ourselves. It's all linked. it's all linked.
Yeah, I think I heard once that a good meditation session is not the one where you didn't have any intruding thoughts. It's the one where you had loads and dealt with them and sort of recognized them, even if you were a minute into that thought and then recognized it. Those are the better ones.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is really interesting. This is something that I'm kind of big on at the minute. So Catherine, who works for me, you've met. She came to Scotland and she's shadowed you as well, I believe. Yes. So she's really big on that tethered decompression. So basically, foot on the lead, sit with the dog until the dog's just a pancake. Let it be a pancake for half an hour, once a day. Big game changer. And she's not wrong. I've always done it with place, but then I find like it misses the mark with some dogs that just aren't, where obedience just isn't their jam. Like it's just not their thing. Whereas she's just big on sit with your foot on the lead to a point where if the dog stood up, it'll be ever so slightly uncomfortable. The dog chooses to lie down because it's easier. Because they lay down, everything slows down and they get into their own meditative state. I always tell people, when you're doing that, don't do it after you've had a 10-mile hike with your dog and they've got everything out the system, because now they're just asleep. That doesn't count. Do it when they have energy so that they can spend that energy actually hormonally regulating themselves. And must admit, since I've started getting people to do it this way and cut out trying to get them to focus on the obedience side of it, unless they've got a dog where obedience is just something that it thrives on and really vibes with, get the dog to kind of go through this uncomfortable situation until it settles itself down. So just take all the options off it until the only option left is just sort of lie down. Once the dog's chin's down or once the side's down, they're there. Can you now stay there for like half an hour and let them have all of that not recovery, but actual relaxation? I guess that's very similar to what you're trying to achieve with the breath work. Is it's that hormonal regulation, let your body flush out the adrenaline, let you like a factory reset, I guess. The breath
work definitely. Yeah. So we do the breath work first. And then we do the meditation straight after it. So it's kind of like linked. Yeah.
Right. So the breath work is kind of the physical side, then the meditation's the mental side. Cool. So with because I know there's a question off Catherine, which we'll come to. I've had a little read of it, but I'm going to throw it at you and let you answer it. So she's really big on that side of things. When it comes to, so the way I always explain this to people, I've told this story a lot. Me and Amy, my partner, went away just over a year ago. We went to his cabin in the woods. God, you'd loved it. Gorgeous cabin, hammock, dead serene. The only thing you could hear was sheep. And I'm like, all day, all night, until you couldn't hear them anymore kind of thing, until you're desensitized. Amy sat down reading a book, and I'm bouncing around this cabin like fucking Pac-Man. Could not sit still. Got me drone out and flew it around, took the dogs for about 13 walks, went for a jog, did this, did that, and then eventually settled down. And that's exactly what I'm telling people not to do with their dogs. Don't wait until they got it all this out the system to relax. They've kind of got to go through this self-soothing sort of situation. And the amount of people that I've got with reactive dogs that are saying, that walk was different. And they haven't changed a thing about handling. They're just doing that beforehand. Yeah. So obviously you do like a lot of threshold stuff. So making sure the way the dog leaves the house is good, which is something we do. But I've started adding in almost as a non-negotiable. If you're taking that dog out, not until it's been a pancake for half an hour.
Yeah, that's good.
And the difference in that dog's mental state, and it's got so much more sort of space to trigger stack before it hits the threshold and stuff. So you do it with humans, you do it with the dogs. Is it something you link to? So are you having them do it with their dogs then? Is it just you get them to do it as a total aside, or is it overlapping?
Depends on the dog, I suppose. So it depends on what the current state the human is in comparison to the dog. So if the dog is a box of frogs and that owner's really anxious, I'll probably say remove the dog for the time being. And then as time goes on, we can like integrate the dogs. If it's like, if I'm doing a seminar, I'll probably just do the humans, because too many dogs in a room is just potential for things to go wrong as well. But end goal, have it. So like the way I do it with my dogs, I used to have them in a place while I do it, and then I challenge myself more now. So I just mix it up. So sometimes they will be loose, and getting them coming over to me, like licking my face and things like that. It's a mental challenge that I need to deal with. I just see it as a test. It's adversity, and just like place with distractions. So you build the distractions up with the dogs.
Back to them similarities.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So,
it's the same thing.
close. Yeah. So we found loads of success in that. Like I used to do it as place, as an obedience command. Moved off from that, doing it more of this tethered thing unless they're already there, and seeing these massive results, and then also getting people to then go do it outside. So I remember one of the first things I ever saw from you when I first started following you was just teach to exist, teach to exist, teach to exist, and having the dog do nothing and have the owner do nothing. I don't think I've ever found something that people find quite as difficult as not doing something with the dog when the answer right now is nothing. How would you go about sort of dealing with that with people? So what would you say to someone when the answer is teach to exist? How do you explain that to people? How would you best recommend they do that?
Give me an example.
So the teaching to exist, so you want someone who's able to get their dog into a town centre, park, local area, somewhere where there's not uncontrollable variables, there's not going to be off-lead dogs or anything, but you just want that dog to just be chilling around stuff. How would you best get them to be able to get the dog into a state where it can actually successfully do that?
So everything starts from the home, because if we can't do it in the home, we're not going to do it anywhere else. So I always come back to sports with this, because I feel like most people can come to terms with it a little bit easier. So if, for example, someone was, let's say I'd never played a game of football in my life, and I wanted to start playing in a football team, and I turned up to the coach and said, "Hey mate, I want to join your team." And he said, "Okay, this Saturday you're in, you're playing." I'm probably going to do awful, because I've never played a game in my life. He's not going to do that. He's going to say, "Right, okay, come down Wednesday nights, whatever, come to training. We're going to show you the rules of the game. We're going to show you the foundations. We're going to show you how to pass a ball. We're going to show you how to shoot. We're going to show you how to play football first. Then as time progresses, then you're going to start having friendly matches with your team, then maybe friendly matches with another team. And you're going to do all this before you actually have a game with people watching. Because all these are other external factors that we don't think about. It's the same with your dogs. So most people are trying to do the game, i.e. the restaurant or whatever it may be, before they've even learned the game. And unfortunately, that's what everyone does. But then when you break it down like that and you say, right, okay, so now we need to learn the foundations. If you can't do it here, why do you think you can do it there? And it's like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. So it's just about breaking it down in a way that the human can understand. And then that's all it would be a case of. And the reality is some dogs aren't built for that either. Yeah. That comes into it as well. And it's just about making the owner aware of the reality of things as well. Because as much as we like to say, like, every dog can do this, that's not the reality either. Yeah. And even if they could, do you want them in them situations? That's another side of the story as well.
Very good point.
I just come at it from all angles, because I personally, I wouldn't take my dogs to them kind of scenarios, but that's just me.
Yeah, the amount of times where people say, I want to be able to take my dog here, and like, right, if that's what you want, fine, but why? I can't think of anything worse than what you're suggesting, but sure, if that's your thing, that's your thing. So something else I wanted to touch on. So if you're working with your sort of reactive dog, as a client's reactive dog, should I say, sometimes I find that the biggest challenges I come across are when the client isn't able to either mentally or physically do what it is that needs to be done. And and obviously you can adapt things to a certain person. So let's say we've got an older person who's got a border collie or a Doberman or something that they probably shouldn't have, but they now have, and it's the situation that's in front of us. How do you overcome that?
It's a tricky one.
Have you got any sort of stories of wins where you've thought this person either doesn't learn well or isn't physically sort of coordinated or powerful or strong enough or just able enough to fix the issue that we've got? You can see the roadmap to fixing this dog, but you can't see it via this particular client.
Yeah, so over the years, I've had very few, but I have had some clients where I've been like, this dog just isn't the right dog for that person. And in them situations, it is what it is. Like, so for example, there was one lady once where her dogs were, she had two, and they were aggressively going for people in the house and then redirecting onto one another. And she had a little tiny baby in the house. She wasn't she just didn't have the skill set to handle them dogs. And it was literally on one of our first meetings, the dog lunged up, went to bite me. I think it caught me very slightly, and then it went over to the other, I think it was Josh who was with me, Josh or Jamie, I can't remember, and went for Josh, but the baby was just right there next to her mum. And from that point, I was like, you can't do this. Like,
and just gotta go.
Yeah. And I'm not emotionless when it comes to these things, but I will be direct. If I don't think it's the right environment for that dog, then it is what it is. And in many cases, it is euthanasia, unfortunately, because not in many cases, but in them cases, it will be, because them dogs, realistically, they need to go to a handler that is a dog trainer. Yeah. And you don't know, there's not many dog trainers going, give me a dog that's biting, please.
Yeah.
So
I think that's something that, like, I'm kind of glad to hear, because it's not a question that's very easy to get an answer to. When I've come across, there's been a few where the person's not ready to give up on it. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of not, but I probably think it's the right idea. Mm-hmm. But the minute I say that, it's game over, because they're never going to believe that they're capable of doing it again. And I think sometimes I just look at this person and I just think, you and this dog aren't going to be able to reach the outcome that you're looking for. And luckily not when there's been safety of like any kids or anything as a concern. There's been a couple of cases where there's been aggression towards young children with a dog that's got the capacity to just fatal attack very quickly, and I've just said, this dog can't be here. And like in those situations, like, we might be able to fix it, but you run the risk assessment and just think, this isn't, even if it isn't likely to go wrong, if it does, it's death. Like, and those dogs have either been moved on, and none luckily that I've recommended that have ended up being euthanized, they've actually been moved on. But then there's somewhere it's not a risk, it's just that this dog can't live the life it needs with this person. So I can think of a couple that I've met / semi-worked with in the past where I can't get this person to the level that they need to be, and I don't think anyone could, whether it be you, whether it be Caesar, whether it be whoever. The dog's got a roadmap to success here, and it's just not through this person. Mm-hmm. I think sometimes that's a conversation I think I'd probably be better. I could be better at having. Yeah. I'm just always worried that if they're not ready to give up, and I say, I don't think you can do this, if I don't believe in them, they immediately won't believe in themselves.
I think it just comes to a point where that person needs to come to a realization, are they happy living the life that they're living? Because if they don't have the skill set, or the reality is some people aren't willing to put the work in, that is a reality as well. Yeah. And if they don't want to do that, then nothing's going to change. And that's what they need to come to terms with. That's not healthy living like that. And I do believe like every dog comes to us for a reason. Just like every person comes to us, every person in our life comes to us for a reason, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's meant to be forever. Yeah. Sometimes it might just be for a season.
Just a chapter.
Yeah, just a little chapter, and it is what it is. And as long as we learn something from that, that's all that matters. But again, you need to be willing to listen, and sometimes people just need to put their ego to the side and do what's better. Well, essentially, if it's better for the dog, it'll be better for them as well. Yeah, of course. If you word it like that to them and just be open and honest with them, the ball's in their court then. Yeah. And as long as you're honest with yourself as well.
There's been plenty of times where I think I could fix this dog. The last client I was just with could fix this dog. You can't.
Well, that's exactly what I'd say. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't picture saying that. Yeah. But yeah, I guess it needs to be said, but I just can't picture myself saying it. Yeah. Okay. So on the concept of sort of people that shouldn't have the dog they've got, obviously this is probably like 90% of why we've got a job is people get dogs that they probably shouldn't have done, and it's created a problem, and they didn't know it until they was in it, and they were dealing with it, and then they need us. Catherine has messaged and basically ask you what your thoughts are on, so it basically temperament testing. So the Volhard puppy test, is it something you know anything about?
Go on.
I don't know anything. I was hoping you would. No, it's basically puppy temperament testing. I mean, we can have a Google. So
have a Google.
So yeah, the Volhard puppy test is basically, from my understanding of it, choosing your puppy using a bunch of so test for social attraction, following, restraint, social dominance, elevation dominance, retrieving, touch sensitivity, sound sensitivity, sight sensitivity, and stability.
Okay.
I'm assuming she's asking that in terms of, would you think that's something that people should do prior to picking their dog out of that litter?
What do the tests when they're actually looking at the litter? Yeah. I'm sure that's what they'll do in the working world as well. Like I know many trainers in the working side of things that will do things like that.
Does this Labrador swim? No, sweet. Next one.
Yeah. They'll drop things in front of the whole litter and see what happens. And yeah. So I think that from because I only had a brief read when she sent me that. Like I said, it's not something I'd heard of. I've heard of the intelligence testing. I'd never heard of that. So I think the idea is, she's asking where the value. Do you think it's valuable because how much can you really guess about what a dog's going to be like at 4, 6, 8 weeks? How much do you think you can get from what this dog's going to turn into, or has the capacity to turn into at that age? Well, I think genetics play an important part, and obviously, if you start on good terms, then it's only going to get better, isn't it? So,
yeah, I mean, for me, I'd look at it and go, you can do all this testing, all the rest of all the stuff you want, but for me, that'd be the 20% instead of the 80. The 80 is you. Are you going to do everything? Are you going to set the lifestyle up for this dog, the training, all the rest of it? You could pick any of them and not temperament test them all. You could pick the worst one and still have better results than someone that picks the best one.
It depends what you want the dog for. Literally, are you going to compete with it? Is it just going to be a pet dog? And all that has to come into consideration. Because if you were going to compete with it, then you'd probably want to.
That, I guess. Yeah, I'm assuming knowing Catherine's like in the same world as us, she's thinking for pets.
So pets, it's important. But like you just said, the word that you're putting in is more so, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. So she had another question that I promised I'd asked you, and it's one she's kind of struggling with at the minute. So can you ask what he thinks about or has an experience of dogs that present as really drivey and hyper, but are actually really very anxious? I've hit a block with one that we can't get to do any sort of decompression or place work with because it's getting to the point of self-harming. So they can't sort of do anything where there's restraint involved. I'm guessing it's on You Move calming care, which has made a big difference. Apparently there's evidence some dogs don't produce enough endorphins, so they get stuck in a loop.
Okay.
Sounds kind of like dog ADHD essentially then.
Yeah.
Struggling with the hormonal balance side of things.
It's a hard one to answer because I'd have to see how she's getting cramp. How she's doing.
Look at me, I'm working out and going like at marathons, I'm getting cramp.
How she's doing the place work, etc. I'd have to see what's going on to actually answer that question properly.
Because I've seen her do it and it's something she's very good at. So have you come across any dogs where you can't get them into that state of decompression from the start? The dog's just too much.
From the start, yeah. But then the more you work with them, they usually start to chill out. Right. And then it's just about choosing your battles wisely. So knowing when you need to stop, because sometimes if you go on for too long, that can make it worse. So you need to know when to quit basically and end it on a high. Yeah. Energy is contagious. So it's just about knowing what energy to give that dog. If you've got an anxious, high drivey dog, then you need it's kind of like trial and error. Sometimes going at a faster pace might work well for that dog. Sometimes going slower might work for that dog. And it's just if I'm doing place work with the dog, that's where I'm watching for everything. So as I'm doing place, I'll pick up the speed, I'll slow it down. I'll start just incorporating little things to see what works well for that dog. Yeah. Food, toys, nothing. Verbal affection. And I'm always testing it to see I'm putting that jigsaw puzzle together. Okay. That's all it is.
My guess, knowing Catherine, is that she's going down especially for the settling and decompression stuff, she's going down the nothing route. This is just a guess. I could be wrong. Sorry if I'm Catherine. I'm going to guess she's going through I think she did the Natalie Dobkins. I don't know if you've heard of her. She's wrote a book called Tethered Decompression, which Catherine has sent me, and I've definitely read it. Honest. I will read it. And she's basically like got this, there's a whole step-by-step way of getting dogs from sort of top to bottom, like through that method. a lot of it, from my understanding, is absence. So you're there, but you're not there, kind of thing. So you just like, me and Grace, who used to work for, used to call it the lamppost game. So like sometimes just pick somewhere and just go be with your dog for 10 minutes and don't give them anything and see can they self-soothe. Like we used to play that quite a while ago. Catherine, from my understanding, subscribes very much to nothing. So do you think it'd be worth her trying affection if you see signs, food, look, adding in things that could potentially be a reward? Potentially,
yeah, but also what's going on behind the scenes as well, like with the actual owners. Is she minding the dog, or is it like a board and train?
No, it'll be one she's working with the client, as far as I know. It's not one that's come through us, I don't believe. Or I'd have heard about it by now if it was one of our clients.
Yeah.
So it'd be one she's working with or someone she's helping herself.
So then it would be a case of like, what's actually going on behind the scenes? How often is this dog chilling out in the house? Does it have free roam? Like, these are all things that need to be assessed, because a dog like that probably needs to have very little free roam. More crate work, more place work, things like that. And if their owners aren't doing that, then that's going to make life a lot harder as well. So it's just, understanding that I'd have like, if that was my clients, it'd be like set in stone what you do, basically. No like routine, but structure. Yeah. So no unsupervised free roam. Place work for so many minutes a day, do this for so many minutes a day. And it's just learning to be chill. And this is where then it comes back to the human's emotions. Because if you've got a dog like that, the reality is the human's probably very similar. And then it's teaching the human then to also relax and chill. And your dog isn't sad. It's not bored. It's just chill. Yeah. And I think that's a big thing for people, because lots of people don't know the difference between happiness and pleasure. And that's a big turning point for people.
Content is happy.
Exactly. And pleasure is that feeling where you just want more.
Dopamine. Exactly. I guess, yeah. So, because that's something I tell people a lot when people go, oh, but he looks dead. No, he doesn't. He doesn't look dead sad. He looks like you look when you sat on a couch of an evening watching telly. You're fine. You're good. And something that I came across that made me realize why people struggle with this concept. I don't know if it's something you've ever thought about. People used to, before TVs and radios, sometimes just sit about awake, doing not much. And that wasn't that weird. Whereas, can you imagine someone now?
Oh, yeah.
That's why I said it to a couple the other day. I said, if you walked in and your husband sat there and the telly wasn't on, or the Xbox wasn't on, or he wasn't looking at his phone, he would just sat there, you'd think he was about to divorce you. You'd think you were walking in to get divorced or something. You'd think, like, what's going on? What's wrong? Because sitting there just being is this absurd thing. And I think people struggle that a dog's got that in its locker and we haven't. I know I do. Like, you'll never catch me sat around doing nothing because I'm the busiest man in the history of busy men. I've got dogs, kids, businesses. I've got a lot going on, but so I don't have an opportunity to really do that, even though it'd probably do me some good.
You do. Everyone has 5 minutes.
I probably have. You're probably right. But then I haven't got the mental trigger to do it. It's something I should work on. Cheers. But I think that people struggle because to see someone just sat doing nothing looks alien. Like, I guess it's something older people can do really well. They can just sit about because it's something they've been used to. Whereas I suppose anyone that's been around since phones, radios, and just more media and more instant dopamine, I guess, struggles to sit and not be getting some from one way or another. So like me, I can't fall asleep without an audiobook on me. I need something. Like, I'm really bad for it. Whereas Missy just gets in bed and lies down. I'm like, that's weird. Like, how have you not got something? Like, and
it's just the way you're conditioned.
Yeah. Whereas I've always just since a kid, I've always needed something to be going on. So what I thought we'd do before we finish, so I wanted to sort of do some sort of quick fire stuff. Bit more fun stuff. So we've had the questions off Catherine there. There was a couple of questions, but basically I know what your answer is going to be. It's going to be get a trainer. Okay. Yeah. Get a trainer. Like when people, so you get, like, I've put reels out about this before, but when people say, I wonder if you could just get your advice on, no. Yes, if it's how to get my dog, how can I improve my dog's recall a little bit? Yeah, sure. I can help you there. I can give you some pointers. But when it's, my dog's got separation anxiety, no. I need to see it. I need to know way too much. And you need to know way more than I'm going to give you on a message. So the couple that I've seen were kind of like that. And the answer I know for a fact from you, because I've seen you ask me a question, stories, and every other one is get a dog trainer, get a dog trainer, get a dog trainer. Because if I try and touch that from here, I could make it worse, kind of thing. So
yeah, correct.
Cool. So what I thought we'd do, so just some sort of quick fire stuff. So always a really good one. Don't think, just say.
Okay.
Favorite breed to work with?
German Shepherd. I thought about that way too much then. Go again.
Favorite breed to work with? Why German Shepherd?
It was the first dog that comes to my mind.
Made you panic then if I say don't think. Go on, why German Shepherd then? Why do you think it sprung to mind?
German Shepherd. I fell in love with German Shepherds. They were like the dog breed that I always wanted when I first started. Yeah. So I think that's why it comes to my head first time. Yeah.
Fair enough. Least favourite dog breed to work with?
Frenchies.
Between them and Dachshund.
Yeah, correct.
Like, I'm going to break you. Like, I just feel like anything could make you worse. Like, you're so fragile, even though you're not.
Yeah.
But like you are, like you're built to fight badgers, but also if you sneeze, you might break your back. Like they're so complex. If you could only use one tool, one, like whether it's food, reward, corrective, aversive, harness equipment, like you could only use one thing for a week to train dogs, what would it be?
Slip lead.
Yeah, that's because the Caesar in you was always gonna go to that. Yeah, I think I'd go with the same thing. There's a lot of versatility there, and like as soon as you get a dog where it doesn't take food, right, I'm done.
Yeah,
me and this dog are.
Yeah, you need that communication. Yeah,
you open up that pathway that everything else flows from. Cool, I like that. So, if you had to choose between, and this is where it all gets a bit daft.
God.
Being attacked by 100 tiny Frenchies or one 15-foot Dachshund. What would it be? And we're talking like this big Frenchies.
How many?
100.
100?
This big, like gerbil size.
Oh, I could probably outrun them. I'd go for that, yeah.
You just said you've got to fight and you're stuck in a room with them.
I'm fighting them. Yeah, I'd still choose them, I think, yeah.
Matt, what would you go with there?
I'm going to lose either way. Yeah, no. I saw the same thing with someone being locked in a room with a crocodile, a bear, something. You've no chance. Except your fame.
I mean, a 15-foot Dachshund.
Yeah.
That's
I reckon I'd have a better chance of outrunning that. It wouldn't be able to turn. It'd be like turning a cruise ship. I reckon that's you.
Do you reckon?
Yeah.
Think how quick you could get away from little Frenchies like that, though.
But you're stuck in a room with it.
Oh, you're in a room. You didn't say this, right? Okay.
You to train them. In like
it's a long. That's a lot of little slip leads, or a one very very big slip lead.
Is this a fight till death?
Yeah, winner takes all.
Oh, okay. I'll go with the Frenchies. Just squash them.
Yeah, I think like you'd have to put a lot of damage into that big Dachshund.
Yeah.
I feel like you'd win just because it'd injure itself within a few minutes.
Oh, I've had a few nasty bites off Dachshunds.
I think I've had more bites off Dachshunds than anything else.
I know, probably Frenchies. It's close.
I think Frenchies have tended to miss because they haven't got they can't get the closure on me the same. They need to get around something, whereas a Dachshund can nip a bit more. I think I've had a few more from like Dachshunds than anything else. Have you ever had any like big bites, big dogs, real intense, like bites with intent?
I probably had one of the worst dog bites in dog trainer history.
I've got to hear about that.
So it's when I first started. I've hardly told this story to anyone now.
I've got
on a
exclusive.
podcast.
Yes.
Let me have a drink.
It was regretting coming on now.
Yeah. When I first started, I got called out to this house and they said they had an aggressive bulldog, English bulldog. Went in. They had, in the house, there was about 10 of them. And I was like, which one is it? He was like, the one outside. I was like, all right, okay. Went outside. I was like, right, okay, let's take it for a walk first. When's the last time? What's it like on a walk? He was like, don't know. It's not been out for a walk in like 5 years. I was like, what? So it's just been confined to this garden. Anyway, we took it for a walk, come back, and he was like, when it goes to the fence, it goes for me. It tries to bite me. I was like, okay, show me. And then he did it. He wasn't doing it because he was tired. And then, anyway, as time went on,
false sense of security.
Yeah, it started getting a little back into it started getting drivey again. And then we was testing it. It was actually doing really well. But then I was talking to the guy like this, and I I wasn't switched on basically, and I could see it in my peripheral vision, but it was too late, and it started coming up. It was lying down, and then it started walking towards me as I'm talking to the guy. I could see it, and there was a tire on the floor, and as I'm speaking to the guy, it's like got up on this tire, lunged at me, got my dick. And then I've been like,
I don't know where I thought this was going, but it wasn't there.
I've been like this, and I've had to pull it off, and then I've got into this big wrestling match with this dog, and it's full on going for me, and I'm having this, all adrenaline's kicked in now, and I'm wrestling with this dog like old school, no lead, no nothing, for about 15 minutes, and then it completely submitted, like it just stayed there. And then as I got up, I went, I'm okay just going to the toilet. I think it caught me then. And then I went upstairs and I went to check myself, and then, yeah, it was
oh my
messy.
God.
It wasn't like, I don't know how much you can say on this. It was foreskin, so it just like split into different ways. But yeah, I didn't get the meat, but it all split into different ways. And I was like, oh my God. And then I went downstairs to the guy. I said, sorry, mate, I think I'm going to have to go to the hospital. It's quite bad. And then as soon as I said that, everything just went black. And I could hear him, and he was speaking to me. I was like, I can hear you, mate. I just can't see you. And then he like sat me down in front of the front door, rang an ambulance, got me some water, and they're on the phone to the ambulance. I'm just about to drink the water. He's going, no, don't let him drink the water.
Because I need to pee.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So then the ambulance come. It was one of the most embarrassing moments of my life. My vision come back. Then the ambulance guys are just taking the mick out of me all the way home. And yeah, I had to get stitches.
Oh, Jesus.
Nearly had to have a skin graft. Got a scar to prove it.
Wow.
But fully healed.
Yeah, we won't show that on the podcast. Jeez.
Fully healed. But
I did not expect that one.
yeah.
So do you think that was so that was when you were quite new? Do you think that was before you developed that superpower that only dog trainers and dog people have, in that you know when it's about to come? Like when you're about to get...
I think I knew, like, don't get me wrong, I still had that. It was the way I did things back then, because it was very much Caesar based, the way I did things, and everything was very much like touching the dogs and things like that. And if anything, with some dogs, it'll provoke it. So I don't tend to do any of that anymore. Whereas when I started, that's how I was handling that dog. So I probably made that situation worse for myself at that time.
Yeah, because I've noticed like the bite, like I've not been bitten in, it must be a year, and the bites that I did get, I wouldn't get now, even if I was in the exact same physical situation. You learn very quickly whether you mean to or not when you're about to get bitten.
Yeah.
And I feel like, so I think, I don't know if it was you that Catherine was talking about, that there was a dog on a couch like right near your face and you dodged one.
Probably.
Yeah. I've had it a couple of times where I've
just like a sixth sense. You just know.
Like I've been sat there and dog's like, where the mic is. And I'm like, nope, get this dog away from me. I'm going to lose my face. And then other times where the dog's where the mic is, and I'm just like, yeah, this is cool. And it isn't one thing that tells me that's happening.
I very much get a gut feeling, and sometimes I'll go into a session and I may not even work with that dog yet, but I'll just say, put that dog on a lead, and I'll just, the dog may have not even been displaying any signs, but I just get a gut feeling, and I always trust my gut feeling. And it's just, you can't explain it, can you? It's just...
Because you couldn't go back and say it was because its tail or its ears or its hackles. Like, I didn't see any of that. I just knew. And
you can feel the energy.
Yeah. And it's not a tangible thing, but you've just got this dog trainer sixth sense, and I'm assuming groomers and vets and all the rest of it as well. Just about once you have teeth on you, and I'm assuming especially when you've had them on your dick, you very much gain that superpower. Cool. So I think we're just about out of time. So tell us what you've got going on at the minute. I know that you've got some things that are under wraps that you can't.
I don't know if I can say anything really. Yeah, I've just got a few projects going on that aren't necessarily dog related, but they will intertwine, but that's as much as I can say. And it really, unfortunately, I'm going to be doing more on my online platform. I'm doing a lot more on that as well. One thing I've always said I'm never going to do is the reactivity side of things. I'm just going to...
On the online thing?
Yeah, but I'm just going to make people aware a little bit more.
Yeah, that's the only thing in mind on reactivity is what is it? What are the different places it can be coming from? And then I'm not giving you anything else from there, like, because... we'll get it wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
So you've got your online thing. I know you did the session at the seminar in Scotland with Sean O'Shea recently. How was that?
Yeah, it was very good.
It was good. Yeah, Catherine said it was amazing. She learnt loads. What Is there anything else like that lined up at the minute, or is it?
I think I'm doing a seminar at the end of September with the Canine Way, John from the Canine Way in Scotland, but we've not actually organised that just yet. I am potentially going to Dubai this year as well, doing a seminar there. Potentially Australia as well. I've been traveling a lot this year. That's what I've been putting my focus on, really, traveling. And yeah, I think that I'm liking the traveling side of things at the moment in time.
Brilliant, love it. So for those that don't know, Jimmy's got an online platform. We'll link it in the description and everything. It's the amount of stuff on there is ridiculous. It's so easy to follow, really, really useful stuff that you wouldn't think of, but then when you actually see it, you're like, oh yeah, of course, that's actually a lot more important. I won't give too much away, but it's definitely worth checking out. So we'll put the link for that in the description. And I've used it. I've had it for a couple of years. I think did you change the link at some point recently, or something changed?
Changed the layout of everything as well, yeah.
So yeah, I've had it. I've sort of dip in and out of it like you do with all these things. And each time I come in, I'm like, you always just pick up a little bit of something, or you rediscover the importance of something. It's so good. Definitely worth checking out. So thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. And hopefully we'll get you on again sometime soon.
Yeah, look forward to it.
Cool. Right, we'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.